All right, what do you got?
All right, cool. Hey, Rob, nice to see you. So it's been a while, since we talk.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
both of us we had a career in sales and we met at Splunk. But
yeah.
before we start, though, I want to have you introduce yourself. Tell us, a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. Okay. Well, so I am at the 42 mark, 42-year career mark
Wow,
of sales and sales leadership in the software industry, both with small startups. Did that for a while in the .com and larger companies. Currently, I am at Splunk, where I was came in as a sales rep actually in 2013. I got out of leadership, felt so strongly about the mission. And then from there, I transitioned to first line a year later, second line a year later, third line, and did my sales career here as the GVP of the UK and Ireland about a year and a half ago. And my my purpose now is really to give back and to serve the next generation. So I am a leadership coach and mentor and developer here at Splunk. So that's what I do now.
awesome. Yeah. So the second part, though, it's got what I call, like how do you remember me, and then how to remember you. Uh, I was a Splunk from 2012 to 2020, and I got there as a first sales rep for kind of Latin America, Brazil, and I met Rob though 2013, and man, like I always had a you, as somebody that I look up to. You had an energy on yourself that I didn't know what it was, but it was more inside than outside. And I saw you, every single year, you grew your career. You're just like hitting those marks.
Yeah.
I thought we did a President's Club together
Yeah.
several times, Diamonds Club, and even though we didn't know this, but I was learning from you because you were ahead of me, and you had a passion for the game and for the people around you. But I could never point out. But now I know, it's you have a good heart and a good aura. So thanks for sharing everything.
Of
And
course.
how do you remember me back in
Yeah.
the days?
So I'm a firm believer of proximity is power. And the way I remember you is that every time I turned around, you were there at a president's club and you were part of the inner circle, whether you believe it or not. And I think that I love what you said. And I'm so grateful that you think of me as somebody that you look up to and you learn from. But it's really the other way around. I learned from everybody, and I learned a lot from you and how you carried yourself in those, the executive presence. You had that presence. You had that presence of mind to use the language and what you focused on and your whole physiology when you were in front of the executives. And I saw that.
Mhm.
And like anybody, I gravitated toward that. So I remember you as somebody that ran with the big dogs. And I'm a firm believer in that. I love being around people with the same kind of energy, and right back at you, man. You had the same energy and you were confident, and I noticed that, and I remember that about you. It's been a while too,
I
and I still.
appreciate it. Yeah, it wasn't easy though, but here we are.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, for sure. So the other day, and that's for the kind of the sales community and the first line leaders, maybe
yeah,
second line. Um, and then we talk about how they can work with your ecosystem, and then how they can scale their sales effort. And one thing I was talking about is how they utilize their ecosystem, internal ecosystem, to kind of
yeah.
help themselves, to be a sales rep.
So for me, there's really nothing more important than the internal ecosystem for success. When I coach or I teach or anytime I speak about this, I'm very passionate about it because I believe that that's the first thing you need to do when you join a
Mhm.
company. First thing you need to do is learn your ecosystem. I call it the Splunk family. I call it a family because we're kind of in this together. So to be a leader, you lead within your ecosystem, and that ecosystem is so important. The other thing I really stress is that you reach out to your ecosystem before you need them. And you let them know that you appreciate what they do for the company, wherever you are. And by doing that, you're building that trust and that human connection and that bond. You're saying the right things. You're not, the worst thing you can do, right, Marcel, this, is to call your legal person at the last day of the quarter and say, hey, I need your help. By the way, my name is Rob. It just doesn't work. So I'm a firm believer of making sure that you get to know that ecosystem early and often, and that you build those human connections. If you've heard me speak anywhere in the world, that's exactly what I'm about. I'm all about making that human connection. Awesome. And building that trust.
I wanna share something with you, sure. And then I want you to tell me. Are you able to see this?
It's coming up. It says as started. It's a black, but it's coming. I think maybe. There we go. Yep. Oh, the layer model.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about layer model a little bit, and then how a sales rep in any stage, right? They can come in and adopt this on a scale, with their internal ecosystem. I think it's important for us to talk about that too.
Yeah. So this is something that, obviously is near and dear to my heart, is when you're looking at, and depending upon I would say that the maturity of your company is how you would implement this, right? Depending upon where you are in your life cycle as a company. If you're a startup company and you're evangelizing out there, obviously the land is so important. And once you do that, being able to get that adoption is something that you need that ecosystem for example, and the partner network. I don't know if you talk about that in your practice, but I think the partner network is so important for both adopt and expand.
No, for sure. And I think the most important point, though, not the most important points, like it's. I think the companies, they tell that they have courses and classes and they expose this, but sometimes though they don't give us the how or the AE or the technical team. They have a gap between applying this and. So any advices on that?
Well, look, I think you always have to look at any one of these methodologies or principles, and you have to go beyond the how and the what. This is all about how you do it and what you do during that process. But I like to say, go beyond that how and the what and focus on the why. Why are you doing this? Why is this important? Why is this important to the customer, and how will this impact them? I talk about outcomes. I talk about, what are we doing to serve the customer, to give and not get? And this layer model, if you look at it as a how and a what, then you're missing out, because you've got to take it to the next level of why you're doing this and give the customer the ability to see the advantage for them to get on board with you with this. And that's important, because they're going to have to give, right? And we're all going to have to give. We got to get skin in the game to be able to adopt that. They're going to have to get involved in that, to expand, to renew, all that. So all these things have to be done with collaboration, and it's a living and breathing collaboration that goes many, many years through your life cycle with a customer. But, the bottom line is you have to be able to go beyond the what and the how, and you've got to talk to the customer and be laser focused on the why. Why is it so important to do this?
And then, Rob, now it's been a little for a while. What's the best? What's the kind of advice to you give to an AE when trying to get support from the leadership and have you, come into the deal and help out? What kind of suggestion you would give that rep?
Yeah, so really good question. And I'll tell you what I used to do as a rep was to make sure that, again, I go back, it's like a broken record, to build that human connection with those executives. I think the best thing you can do is go way above your game. As a sales rep, I always built relationships with the CEO of the company, with the executives, with the chief sales officer. There are ways, they are so open to doing that. And when you're not doing that, you're missing out, because you want to make sure that you can call those people for advice, for to have them come in and you have a relationship with them. So it's the same thing as the ecosystem. Make sure you build those relationships early and strong, and don't be afraid to call the executive suite. They're willing to help. They're always willing to help. And I'll tell you, when you call an executive and you ask them to come in, there's not a better feeling in the world. I mean, when I got calls from reps and they wanted to bring me into a meeting, it was like, when do you need me? When do we go? And I never said no. And executives, if it's the right executive and you're with the right company, those executives are going to come in and they're going to have massive value. They're going to bring a whole nother game, and you're going to learn from that as well when they do that. That's the most important thing, is when you're in the room. Again, proximity is power. So get those people in the room, and don't be afraid to reach out. It doesn't matter what your level is. Have the guts to do that.
So can you see
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
this internal system relationship map?
Yeah.
Right. So you're over here now talking about the leadership team and then how they can bring you guys.
Yep.
Is that a specific, like when you look, for information from a deal, is that something that you tell your rep, hey, when you come to speak with me about a deal, like those are the minimum things I expect you to have. What kind of devices, could you give a rep, when you're trying to bring a deal to the leadership, so they can understand the deal and help it then make better decisions?
Yeah, I think the key right there is to make sure that you make it simple and that you don't overbuild content just to build content. The worst thing you can do is send an executive a 30 slide PowerPoint and say, here's your briefing doc. You've got to build it as an executive summary. You've got to think of it as you want to make sure that they can consume it, and they can understand it, and they get the overarching goal and the role that they have in that meeting, whatever it is. So don't overthink it. Keep it simple, and make sure that you know all the ins and outs of the account. Make sure you have a value stack. Make sure you have a mutual activity plan. Make sure you have all those things in place, so you can show the executive that the account up and down, but here's the executive summary. Keep it very simple. And most importantly is, make sure you're clear on their role in that meeting. That was the big thing for me. I'd always want to know, just tell me my role. What would you like me to do? Who do you want me to be? And that's an important question to answer for an executive.
Okay. I like that, because a lot of the reps, a lot of times they don't know how they can leverage their manager or the people above. Right.
Yep.
So there was a period in my life that I didn't understand, how to do that, and how to expose. So I learned kind of the hard way.
Yeah.
But I think the first line leaders now has a responsibility. I mean, first line leaders can be the person now transition and making sure the communication is getting passed to upper management in a better format.
Right.
So it's all about the AE asking for help, reaching to different people, asking a lot of questions, and then asking them second, third line leaders, what's a good deal review looks like. What's a how can I ask you? How can ask you better questions? And a lot of people, they're afraid to ask, the simple questions and expose themselves. But I think it's the humility and making sure you understand what they want, and then you work with them.
Absolutely. Look, you're not supposed to know everything, and I tell all of my coaching clients the same thing. Look, it's okay not to know everything. It's okay to show that vulnerability, even to an executive, because that's where you're going to help plug those holes. To go into a meeting and profess that you know everything is really not a good idea. How you build trust is one of the reasons you build trust, is to show vulnerability. And you can really do that with people and executives. So don't overthink it. Again, you don't have to know everything. In fact, you want to point out the things you don't know, because that's what you want to accomplish in that meeting. Hey, I'm not sure, who their key partner is, for example. They use this guy and that, they use 2 different or 3 different partners. Maybe you have experience with that in the past. Yeah, I actually know somebody from there. Great. So let's figure out who their go-to partner is, because I have 3 partners in on my deal review. And maybe you could dig into that. Or, there's all kinds of things that you just may not know. And I think it's important that as reps, we need to, and even leaders, I mean, I have no problem showing my vulnerability that I don't know something. It's okay not to know everything.
Yeah. Especially though, when you're running fast, when you're trying to close the deal in 3 months, and then you have,
Right.
pipeline, forecast, deal reviews, you got to reach out to the customer.
Yep.
There's a lot of going though if you're trying to be perfect.
Right. Right.
So you have to share your plan. You have to share, your account plan. You got to have a vision.
Yep.
And people around you can help you with the vision if you don't know how. But
Right.
I think the most important thing though is for the reps to understanding the power of self-development, not waiting for the company to provide all the answers and all the information, because I don't think there's sales reps sometimes, we have imagination, the company is going to give us all the resources and tools for us to do our job, and it's unless you start thinking about you and how you're going to support, how you're going to bring value to the company, then it's a different game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these days, I mean, you hit it really, really well. We're running so fast. You're not gonna get everything, and you have to have people around you. This is a great picture I'm looking at of the people that you need around you constantly. And this is also, this is a living and breathing kind of ecosystem, and you've got to be touching that ecosystem on a regular basis throughout this entire wheel and getting people's opinions. And I used to make sure it was a requirement that the partner was in the deal review, even though they weren't splunkers, because that was very important to me, because I wanted their perspective. I wanted their different perspective. And it's okay to not know everything, as I say, and the partner may have an inside track. So it was not a big deal for me to do that.
No, for sure. I mean, Rob, I think we're getting now towards the end here. I just wanted to bring it in
Yeah.
to see your perspective on this. It was awesome to get to know you throughout my career. You are doing great. You're about to do great things, right? And I hope that our path cross again. And I just think you're a wonderful guy, man. I appreciate everything you've done.
Yeah, no worries. Right back at you. I appreciate you, and grateful to be able to spend some time with you. And I hope you got a few tidbits you can use.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.